Hello. Hi. Yeah, hello. Morning stream. I guess I'm wrong. Yes, you are. How are you doing? A baby. Hi. Yeah, hello, Kurt. Yeah, hello, everyone. All right. I'm okay. I haven't slept this much in a while. Oh, that's good. That's very good. 9 hours? Oh, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy to be a Sandman. Sleep well too. Oh my god. Kurt, you need to sleep to fix your fucking sleep schedule. Wow, thank you. You're welcome. Let's let's change the music. No, no. Oh, this one. Hopefully after tonight that will be the case. Why do I feel like you say that all the time? Okay, so little life update. Well, like you guys know, I didn't stream yesterday because I had an accident while coming back from work. So nothing very bad. I'm fucking pretty much alive and nothing's broken. Uh, though though I have I can't move my leg much, and I have to walk. I have to force myself to walk on it because otherwise it's never gonna heal. Uh, Pretty much alive. Well, yeah, I'm just very tired because like I arrived home. It was like 2 a.m. and I woke up at 9. So like I didn't sleep much. But yeah. Plus I'm eating bulldog, so I was at your funeral. I don't know what you mean. Oh yeah, for those who miss it, on the Discord, most of the mods and the community has been like making fun of me being on an accident and saying that I was pretty much dead. So bunch of bullies. That's all you are. Bully benders. That's what I should call you. Bully benders. Bunch of bullies. Okay. So let me just let the Twitter go benders know and the blue sky go benders know and the Instagram go benders know, even though they're not a lot, that we're live today. We're gonna be live until like um something like Wednesday. I think, yeah. I'm out of work until Wednesday, so we're gonna have like 7 days of stream. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna love this. Anyway, So today, what we're gonna do? Um. So what we're gonna do today is, um, we're gonna watch some more Puppy Playtime game theory, and we're gonna do some keyboard ASMR because uh, I have some papers to do for work because I am not in condition to be at work since I can't move my leg. It's kind of dangerous for me to be around the kids, uh, from what the doctor says. Which I would understand because most of the kids just jump at me to give me hugs. So, which is why I said, okay, I'm alright. I'm alright with this decision. um, but yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do today. Let me just prepare everything. Um, we're gonna go in game. There we go. Let's see. I'm gonna put myself here because I'm supposed to watch here, so it will make sense. Am I small enough? Is it okay? Am I in the middle of the screen? Let me know, guys. Do you think this is okay? Like, I don't want you guys to not be able to see the stream. Mm. We're gonna stop the music. Boom. And there we go. It's starting. Oh shit.
Fly for my web. It's been so long since I've had a decent snack.
Bit of a nuisance, but what a fine addition she'll make. Oh, don't be frightened by those rejects. They were just scrap fodder for the pile. They're far greater.
Oh my god, that might be too loud for you guys. Wait, sorry. Okay, there we go. I love their fucking introduction. It's so good all the time.
Show that's constantly reaching and stretching for answers. So, kind of like the nerdier version of Mommy Longlegs. And welcome back to our coverage of Poppy Playtime. Probably should rename the game Poppy-less Playtime since 2 chapters in and we've spent like 5 minutes with the character. And of those 5 minutes, like none of it's actually been playing, so just a clickbait title across the board. Last episode we broke down 2 of the biggest mysteries people were asking about this latest installment. The first was figuring out the real identity of our little doll here. In my very first theory for the game, we concluded that Poppy was created using the soul and body parts of Stella Graber, an employee of Playtime Co. However, this chapter revealed that Stella was still very much alive when Mommy Longlegs was introduced back in the 1990s. Considering that Poppy was invented in the 1950s, timeline didn't really work out. So, who then is Poppy? Well, it turns out she's the adopted daughter of Playtime Co.'s founder, Elliot Ludwig, a girl who died tragically sometime in the 1960s. According to evidence in the game, he managed to revive her inside the Poppy doll, but was unsure of how he did it. This led to thousands of experiments where he tried to harness the power of poppy flowers to bring bring toys to life. Experiment 1006 would be the one to prove successful, giving rise to a new type of living toy, the prototype. This monster made up the other half of that previous theory, as we looked into the big pointy-clawed beast. It's an experiment that we're told is smarter and more dangerous than any other experiment in the factory, considering we've been up against this, and this, and this.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform. Describe
Him being that much smarter doesn't really bode too well for us. But talking about these two is only really scratching the surface of what's really happening at Playtime Co. What are these living toys made from? Who are we in all of this? Will this game ever not be similar to FNAF? And why is a caterpillar dog with elf feet so disturbing to the very core of my being? Well, I think I have answers to all these questions and more. Alright, maybe not the last two, but definitely the first couple. And by the end of today's episode, we'll be that much closer to figuring out all the twists and turns that Poppy has planned. Spoiler alert, I think that we might be the true villain of this whole narrative. Let's start at the makeup of the monsters. Originally, we suspected that the flesh and blood of former employees was being used to help create the sentient toys that are now chasing us around the factory. I mean, look at all the blood in this place. And usually it's found alongside a broken toy. Plus, as Huggy Wuggy falls into the abyss at the end of chapter 1, he leaves blood splatter on all the pipes that he hits on his way down. Combine that with our theory that Stella was inside a Poppy, and boom, you got yourself a recipe for the most gruesome company health plan ever. However, chapter 2 seems to be pulling us in a different direction. Once you defeat Mommy Longlegs and get back to the game station to free Poppy, you can find two notes on either side of the control panel. One is about a scientist complaining about the lack of natural light in the lab, which, let me tell ya, as someone who literally locks himself in a closet to work on episodes, totally get that. Hashtag relatable. But it's the second note that I want us to pay attention to. It starts off harmless enough. Just a list of instructions for employees working on the game station floor. Quote, start by reporting to the control station. Always keep a minimum distance of 20 yards away from Mommy Longlegs. The train will arrive with the children at 8 a.m. All children will be gathered inside the game station all at once. The order of the games will be Musical Memory, Whack-A-Wuggy, then Statues. A series of bridges and doors from a control station should guide you to each game. End quote. I mean, you know, it's all pretty straightforward stuff, but it's the last section where my theorist senses really start to prick up. Quote again, only one child should ever play a game at a time. Children who are not playing a game will wait in the game station. There's playground equipment to keep them entertained. Record each child's performance as it's relevant to each game. Music memory, composure, memory, pattern recognition. Whack-A-Wuggy, hand-eye coordination, and reaction times. Statues, agility, strength, and speed. Once the children have left for the day, return to the control station, give all reports to Miss Stella Graver to sort through. End quote. The children weren't just playing any old games. These games were specifically designed to test children and monitor their skills. And that's not all. When you break out of the Statues game, you can actually find two of these reports hidden inside the room for a child named Michaela Hyssop. Each proctor goes through and explains how Michaela performed in each task. Quote, she has a good grasp on the concept and decent performance, but Michaela made mistakes on several of the color patterns. In her second attempt, she was making noticeable improvements. Quote again, Michaela is very accurate and fast. Few mistakes were made. You can actually see this improvement reflected in her scores, going from 331 to 434. However, notice what's written right at the top of the page. Underneath the child's name, the name of the proctor is another category, assigned toy. For Michaela, this was Candy Cat. Now, why would you need to assign a specific toy to each individual child? Unless, of course, you needed that child to have some kind of deep connection with the toy for some kind of supernatural purpose, like, say, turning the child into that toy. Certainly sounds like something that happened in an indie horror game. And look at this. Right at the start of the chapter, we find this note in Elliot Ledwig's office that talks about his experiments with dead rats and using the poppy flower to try and revive them. According to the document, it doesn't work. We talked about all that last episode. However, something we didn't mention last episode was that at the end of the note, Elliot leaves us with this parting thought. Quote, perhaps something larger than a rat would yield different results. And suddenly it all begins to fit together. The testing of the kids, assigning them a toy, it's not for their own betterment, it's in order to provide larger subjects for Elliot's experiments. He isn't stuffing his employees into toys to bring them to life, he's using children. Oh, come on, just when I thought we would get through an episode without a FNAF reference. But that's not all, because Poppy Playtime saw FNAF's dead kids and said, hold my remnants, because if stuffing kids wasn't bad enough, these aren't just any children, they're orphans. At the start of Statues, before we even see any of these child testing papers, Mommy gives us a little monologue about why she's trying to kill us.
It was always so sad to see the kids go. They called me Mommy because I
They called me mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one. All right, let me level with you. First off, I think they called you mommy because, you know, that's literally the name of your toy. We see the commercial at the very beginning of the chapter. You've also spent the entire game talking about yourself in the third person, so none of this should be a shock to you. But you know what? She's also probably right. If this day-glow pink stretch spider is the closest thing the kids have to a mom, then yeah, chances are they're growing up parentless. This also directly aligns with the posters that we see throughout the factory. Posters that explicitly talk about Playtime
Okay, can
Co.'s
you guys hear
adoption
better
program
now?
for orphans. In chapter 2, it says, quote, Playtime Co. harbors a state-of-the-art education program for all orphan children. These
I don't
children
know.
being tested are
I hope
orphans.
you do.
That's why, despite there being literally hundreds of experiments, notice that the experiment numbers go from the 800s all the
sorry.
way to the thousands. No missing children's reports are ever filed. I mean, heck, even Freddy's had to close after 5. This also applies to a select number of the game's death screens. Nobody is here by choice? Yeah, these kids didn't choose to be here, to be adopted by the company or turned into toys. And I'm sure at this point they're all well aware of the fates that are worse than death, like we see in another death screen. I still stand by our first theory on this one. I'm convinced that these
Quiet.
death screens are Poppy talking to us. At the end of the
Okay, give me
chapter,
a
she says
second.
that she has plans for us and prevents us from escaping on the train.
Cause like for some reason, I don't know why it does that. Give me a second. I think my neighbor's knocking at my door. J'arrive. Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry. My neighbor just got buried in to check up on me. She's so nice, dude. Like, she just came in to tell me that. Cause here's the thing, um, um, basically, my yesterday when I got my accident, I went back home right away instead of calling like cuz I'm dumb like that. I don't know what happened in my brain cuz I'm not this dumb, right? But like for some reason I didn't think and I just went back home. Uh so I put the I put the scooter down like downstairs and I told my neighbor because I was like, yeah, I might just go back. So can I leave it there? And she was like, yeah, 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 just leave it there. It's fine. And I went to my apartment, which is on the first floor. And what happened is that I that's when I realized that my knee was hurting very bad, and that it was like triple the size that it was supposed to be. And so that's why like I just got down and I went to tell her, hey, I might need to go to the hospital. I'm sorry. So if that's okay, can I leave it there? Can I leave my scooter there? And she was like, yeah, sure. What's going on? So I showed her my knee, and when she saw it, she was like, oh my god. And like obviously like the like the stuff that you know that stuff that you put on your head to protect yourself. I don't remember the helmet. There you go. I'm sorry. Oh, a wee wee cat. All right, a wee wee wee. And so what happened is that the helmet is very it's in bad shape. It's in bad shape. That's all I can say. Um, and um, and so what happened is that because I was I was being late for come back in home because I came back like at 2 a.m., right? Um, around like around like 9 to 10, she got the scooter inside of her apartment because she was worried that someone would stole it from me. And her son, who's living with her, has like knows everything about scooters, all that shit. um he has a scooter too, right? And I get along with pretty much all of my neighbors. There's only one that I don't really talk to because we don't see each other. She's a student, so we don't really see each other much. But I see most of my neighbors and I get along with them, so it's pretty cool. Um, and basically like she told her son about it, and he was like, no way, no, there's no way. And I was like, and she was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she showed me like everything and all, and he saw my Hamlet and he was like, oh my god, no. So basically she just came here to check up on me to see if I was still here or if I went to work, if like how was my leg, and also to tell me that her son is gonna like pick up my scooter to bring it back here. Bro, you gotta show the Hamlet. It's not it's not destroyed. Like it's just like a few like kind of like white dots. Cause like my scooter is like I wish I had a I wish I had a picture, but it just looks like I put paint on it. But yeah, I can't use my helmet anymore. I have to buy a new one. Um yeah, yeah, it's just like it's not the helmet that is destroyed basically. It's just like the top of it that is like um that is all bruised and all that shit, I guess. But yeah, so like yeah, cuz like my fault was not you'll need a new helmet. Yeah, I really would. I really do. Like, I think I was thinking of getting one with like that looks like a motorbike one because like I saw a lot of people like wearing these and I think it would be easier for me. So first of all, because I don't want to get any shit in my eyes while I'm driving, like, because this is fucking annoying all the damn time. But also, I think it would be more secure than just like a bike or rollerblades helmet like I used to have. The way they work is compressing the foam inside. So once they've had an impact, if you have another fall, you might as well be having concrete on your head. Yeah, and you need knee pads and elbow pads. Well, I mean, yes, but yeah, 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 yeah. I really do need these. I'm sorry, guys. I really didn't want to worry you guys. That's why I said that it was not that bad. That I was not about to die. I'm very sorry if I really did worry all of you. Like, it was not the. It was not my purpose. I don't like to worry people. But yeah, and so she came here to check up on me and to tell me that if I needed anything, that should be here to help. That the only hour where she's not available is between 4 and 6 or 4 and 5, something like that. Because she has like medical medical appointments. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's yeah. I really have nice neighbors. I'm really grateful for this. Like, I really don't want to live in another place. I think I'm at the right place at the right time right now. Mm, it's really cool. Anywho, back to the game theory. So you can tell me if the sound is better now.
This perfectly lines up with
I feel like it's still like I can get why you guys think it's quiet because I feel like it is, and I don't understand why because everything like is on high volume. The neighbors are very nice. Yeah, they really are. I'm really lucky to have such nice neighbors. Okay, I think I found out. Okay, be careful. Put the sound down just in case because I put everything to 100%, which I never do usually. Okay, you ready? I really don't want to hurt you guys' ears. Ready? Okay.
death screens like "you can die later. This isn't about you, and I still have plans for you." However, Chapter 2 introduces a new mechanic into the death screens. You see, well, those that I've already mentioned all end with a flash of white.
Is this better? Yeah, that's better? Okay.
There are others that end with an ominous red screen. One of those red screens is even in a secret code like the one that we had in Chapter 1. I guess this is just a thing that they do now. Last time we deciphered the code to give us the phrase, "Stay, they need help." Fortunately, the new one in Chapter 2 uses a few of the same letters. In fact, the first word in this new code is exactly the same as one from the other code, they, followed by an apostrophe and two more letters, the second of which is also an E, so this is very clearly there. The next two words get a little trickier as they contain letters that we haven't seen before, but after a bit of analysis and trial and error, I managed to decipher the whole thing to read, "They're just hungry." This, on its own, doesn't really tell us anything new, but when you start to combine it with the other red screen messages, it starts to paint a bigger picture. The prototype has saved us. Isn't he wonderful? He is loose. This is an emergency lockdown. Innovation is key. May we forget death. This is no longer Poppy talking to us. She's horrified by the creation of these monsters using human test subjects. She doesn't like what's going on in the factory. No, these are the messages of someone else. Someone so obsessed with overcoming upcoming death that they can't see past the issue with their own experiments. They're just hungry? That feels like the excuse of one of those parents that believes that their child can't do any wrong. Except, they're talking about a giant human-consuming erector set monster. These messages must be coming from either Elliot himself, the man who after the death of his daughter put his heart and soul into creating his toy empire, or one of the employees who believed in the cause so much that they were willing to sacrifice parentless children to find the solution. But why us? Why do we hear so many people talking in our ears when we die? In fact, why did we feel so compelled to return to the factory in the first place? I know we got ourselves a note saying that missing people were still here, but just not convinced that any minimum wage employee is gonna risk their lives in a factory where people mysteriously went missing 10 years ago. And when the giant Huggy suddenly went missing from the main atrium in the first chapter, yeah, most people are gonna nope straight out of there. Yet here we are facing monster after monster, fighting for our lives, determined to see this thing through. Why? I've actually been thinking about this since chapter 1, but at the time I just didn't have enough to give a definitive answer. Then here we are in chapter 2, and Mommy says this.
But you...
Don't raise dragons right off the bat. For new
But you
players,
don't raise
at the start of
dragons.
the game, you don't wish to raise dragons. You might get a powerful dragon at the
You worked here.
Fuck you, ads.
So if
Not for real.
anyone deserves to die alone.
Wait, give me a second. Give me a
Answer.
second,
Then
because I
here
want
we
to
are
make
in
sure that
chapter
we
2,
listen to
and
the
Mommy
entire
says
thing.
this.
But you worked here. So if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
How does she know that we worked here unless she recognizes us? We know, thanks to tapes from people like Marcus Brickley, that most employees weren't aware that the factory was creating these giant living toys.
I took a peek beneath the gate, and some massive bloody thing was doddering about the bloody hallway.
Thing? You're sure it wasn't a person?
Ain't no person that's 50 feet long with 1,000 legs.
Marcus, you're losing me. Maybe you just saw a bunch of people walking by.
Look, it wasn't people, alright? I haven't a bloody notion what it was, but it wasn't human.
Plus, in front of the emergency exit that you find after falling through the vent, there's a note from Eddie M.N. Ritterman that also confirms this. Quote, "This project should only be known about by those with the authority at Warrenbach and those with authority at Playtime." So, for Mommy to recognize us as an employee, we need to be someone with the authority to be involved in the experimentation. She's shown to be aware of the scientists throughout the factory thanks to a note that we find in the water treatment area. This note discusses experiment 1222, aka Mommy Longlegs. And in this note, we learn that she's being hostile to scientists working there. The note ends with, quote, "Have her transferred to high security maintenance immediately. Conditioning can begin." We also hear about suppression treatments from the VHS tape about 1006. But as we know in indie horror games, conditioning is never a painless process.
Let's encourage baby to cheer up with a controlled shock.
I promise, I'm really not trying to make this game sound more and more like FNAF. This stuff just kind of writes itself. If Mommy was being conditioned by these people, it would make sense that she feels like we deserve to die alone. I'm not sure I'd be too happy to see my torturer alive again either. So if we're not just some employee at the factory, are we a scientist then? One of the many people working on the experiments? No. And we know this based on this room. Just after you chase Mommy and Poppy down a giant hole, you wind up in a tube slide. If you turn around, you'll see that this room actually has a number of slides in it, each one with the name of a high-ranking member of Playtime Co. listed above. We just came out of the slide with the name Elliot Ludwig above it, who we already know is the creator, founder, and CEO. The other slides have the names Leith Pierre, Eddie MNR, and Stella Graber. We were first introduced to Leith Pierre right at the very beginning of Chapter 1.
Hi, my name is Leith Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at the Playtime Co. Toy Factory.
We also hear Leith's voice as the person interviewing Marcus.
So, Marcus,
How many ads is there?
I was heading home for the day when my AFRs realised that I left me bloody wallet in the cafeteria. So I'm running through the lobby, and that's when I see it. A mop handle lodged under the innovation wing gate.
Now, what Marcus said there might seem insignificant, but it's not. It's Jacksepticeye. Of course, he's gonna be important for the lore. Before jumping into the hole after Mommy and Poppy, if you look around, you can actually see 5 corridors that lead to different wings of the factory, like the game station and innovation. 5 slides, 5 different wings to the factory. So if this is truly a center point leading to all the different wings, and all the slides lead from high-ranking members' offices, it would stand to reason that each name is associated with a different wing of the factory. theory. For example, one of the wings is labeled Play Place, which sounds very similar to where Chapter 3 has taken place, Play Care. We know that
Station?
Stella is someone
I
with
used to
authority
work
at
for
Playtime,
them.
and she was in charge of sorting through all the orphan kids' test scores.
think
And is
I've
therefore the
seen
one
the
that would decide
anime.
which kids move forward on the train
kinda
headed to the
cute,
next
though.
stop, Play Care, where she could
I
then
didn't
monitor
watch
and
it.
begin the experimentation process. And as Stella's voice is heard in the game station, it would lead me to suspect that Stella's in charge of all play elements of the facility, so the Play Place would likely come under her control. This leaves us with two wings left, research and production. Eddie MNR is a bit hard to pinpoint as we've only ever had one letter from him, but his note does refer to the creation of the lab that these experiments are taking place in. As such, it makes the most sense for him to be the head of research, or some similar sort of title, which leaves us then with the production wing.
Killed
And you see,
slimes
this
for
is where
300
we
years
come
or
in. You see, there are
something.
4
Kinda
slides with
Eureka
names that we've
Identity.
already mentioned, but
Oh,
there
okay.
is one more. In the right-hand corner, hidden in shadow. I suspect that this one is our slide. Someone who is high enough at the company to be aware of the living toys. Someone important enough for mommy to recognize. Someone with an elite enough title that they got their own tube slide. We are the head of production. We're the ones putting these toys together, using the parts of the children from the game station. And when the toys malfunctioned and needed conditioning, they'd be sent right back to production for us to fix the faulty product. That is why we're here. It's the only wing of the factory that's left unaccounted for. It explains our role in the narrative. It explains why mommy recognizes us and why we're back. To either atone for our sins or to burn the entire place down so no one ever finds out what we did here. But that's not the end of it though. If I'm right, and this is meant to be our slide, we've actually been given a name. I mentioned that the 5th slide has no name above it, but the letters for the sign do seem to be present just on the floor. JAHYEONBAIM. Now, names are hard. They're not
John?
normal words. Technically, anything can be a name, and you certainly can't just plug it into a word unscrambler to solve it for you. The team and I spent a few hours trying various combinations of letters, and I spent even longer going through both chapters of the game trying to find some
His
kind
name
of
is
clue
definitely
pointing in the right
John.
direction. Some initials or a document with only a first or last name attached, but so far, nothing. I did come
Are
up
you
with a couple of
winning?
possibilities, though. Things
Well,
like
we're
Benjamin
just
Yo,
watching
Benjamin Hoey,
the
or
theory
Jay Bohemian.
games.
Can't say
Like
that
the
they're
game
anything
theory
definitive.
of
However,
Puppy
there was
Playtime.
one that stood out from the rest. One that seemed to fit with the world of this game.
So I
with
guess
the
we
other
are.
names of characters. Ladies and gentlemen, I predict that our character's name is, drumroll please,
Jamie B. Honey?
Jamie B. Honey. Feels
Fuck,
like it
his
fits
name is
into a
not
toy
John.
factory, doesn't it? We are Jamie B. Honey, the head of production, returning to the factory
But
to
how
try
are
and
you,
undo all
Kayan?
the wrongs that he and his co-workers committed all those years ago.
I hope
Or, you
you're
know, we're
doing
trying to make
great.
sure that everything stays buried. We were vital to the production of these living toys, turning them from regular plastic and fur into the hellish nightmares that we see. And the future chapters are only going to
Just
reveal
woke up.
more
Good
monsters.
morning.
And maybe it'll confirm the fact that in this story, the humans were the real monsters all along. But hey, that's just a theory.
A game theory.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Hope you're doing well. Well, I'm doing better than yesterday for sure.
100% pour les thérapeutes et les coachs. Je vais te parler des principes de l'hypnose, de la PNL, des neurosciences, de la psychologie décisionnelle.
There is nothing more gratifying to my soul than being the reason for a theorist's smile, to be the one that inspires creativity, critical
I love their
thinking. That is why
intro.
it is with
I'm
enormous
sorry, I'm
pleasure
saying
that
this
I am
in every
announcing a
video,
new
but like I'm
theory,
obsessed.
a theory
It's so
based
cool.
on the Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 teaser trailer. Because while this trailer may seem vague and unspecific, it reveals even more of the horrific experiments that went on inside Playtime Co. May this theory terrify and disturb every theorist that chooses to click.
Yeah.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that encourages you to wake up and smell the poppies. And I mean that quite literally, friends, because today we're diving nose first back into the world of Poppy Playtime, which has been suspiciously quiet since the release of Chapter 2 back in May. Then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we got ourselves this little surprise last week. A teaser trailer for Chapter 3 coming out, according to the video, sometime next year. And let me tell you, friends, if you haven't seen this teaser yet, it gets dark. It starts off with a slow panning shot of the toys that we've we've already defeated. Huggy Wuggy lying on the ground, Mommy Longlegs ripped into, Brawn the dinosaur's head for some reason. All while we listen to Elliot Ludwig, founder of Playtime Co., giving an announcement about PlayCare, the adoption initiative that Playtime Co. is starting. He states that Playtime owes everything to these children, and then the trailer ends as the camera moves up to reveal a creepy-looking gas mask, all while the sounds of audience applause mix with the horrifying cries of children. Yay! This is a video game that's gonna be played by kids. Clearly they went hard for this one. The Chapter 2 teaser was creepy, child singing Itsy Bitsy Spider in a minor key, classic horror trope. But there's something about the sound of screaming children that just hits different. And that's coming from a guy who talks about dead kids way more regularly than a person probably should. However, behind those screams is the thing we're really looking for, the lore! For a few episodes now, we've suspected that Playtime Co. used children to make these living, breathing, bleeding toys. And now, having the founder of the company outright say, we owe everything to these children, well, I'm thinking he means that literally. But there's a lot more in here than just hints to past theories. I suspect that there's enough in this single minute of content to get a sense of most of what Chapter 3 is going to reveal to us. From the next big bad toy we're going to face to perhaps the most disturbing lore drop to happen yet. So let's take another slide down into the depths of Elliot Ludwig's monster factory, shall we? Probably the best place to start off is by addressing the severed dinosaur head in the room. In my live reaction to the teaser over on GT Live, where you'll notice I'm wearing some stellar new theory wear, by the way. Link for that's down below this video if you're interested in that nice long-sleeved t-shirt. Or, you know, maybe an awesome new futuristic backpack or shoulder bag right in time for the new school year. Let me tell you, they're the perfect size for any killer toys you might want to cram in there. Or, you know, maybe just a pack of our new clickbait green playing cards. I promise they won't come to life and chase you through the ventilation system. Anyway, where was I again? Sorry, merch push got me all confused. Oh yeah, in my reaction, seeing Brawn the dinosaur here immediately set off some theory alarms. Is that the dinosaur? What is that, Brawn? Brawn the dinosaur? His appearance here seems very intentional. The trailer begins by panning up from the remains of our first two bosses, and then we land on him, implying that he then is going to be our Chapter 3 big bad. This feels especially true when you consider that the rest of the less important characters from past chapters like Pugapillar and Bunzo appear behind the gas mask at the end of the trailer. If we're to believe this motif that they're setting up here, right, it seems to be indicating that Chapter 1 boss, Huggy, Chapter 2, Poppy, Chapter 3 then is Brawn going to be the boss, or kind of like the big bad of Chapter 3. It's also worth pointing out that the gas mask at the end of the teaser is red and yellow, exactly like Brawn the dinosaur's color palette. No other toy we've been introduced to at this point matches that coloring, so it does seem like an odd coincidence. Like, again, it's purposefully trying to hint at Brawn's importance in this upcoming chapter. And then you have yourself the cardboard cutouts. Throughout Chapter 2, you find these cardboard cutouts of the various characters from Playtime Co. scattered throughout the map. If you push the buttons multiple times, they say various phrases, some of them harmless,
You want to play with PJ?
some of them disturbing,
You need to get out of here. Just kidding! Go have fun!
and if you keep on pressing, most of them end up as a glitchy mess. Now, I gotta be honest, when I first saw these things, I really wanted to do a theory just on these cardboard cutouts, expecting there to be some sort of hidden lore inside the glitchy audio. Like, it is the perfect place to hide lore. The perfect place to hide some lore. Mob games, wink wink, nudge nudge. I tried pitch shifting, reversing the audio, spectrograms, basically everything I could think of. You know what I got? Nothing. Maybe there'll be something that happens in Chapter 3. Who knows, mob games? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they were totally useless, because Brawn does actually give us some interesting information. By pressing his cutout button once, we get a setup for a joke.
What do you call a dino with one eye?
And then pressing it again, we get the punchline.
Do you think he saw us?
Slow clap there, Brawn. Slow clap. That is the type of humor that's kept me alive on YouTube for the past decade. However, keep pressing the button and you get this.
What do you call the scariest dinosaur?
Right. Right. Why is it looking like this?
Braun is outright telling us that,
That was
he's
a
a
fun-
scary dinosaur. The other
That was a fun
live on
fun
YouTube
ad.
for the past decade. However,
Caught my
keep pressing the
attention.
button and you get this.
What do you call the scariest dinosaur?
Braun is outright telling us that he's a scary dinosaur. The other toy cutouts, even the ones that do try to kill us within this very chapter, aren't nearly that overt. Some of them have ominous lines, but none of them are outright warning us about how scary they can be. In short, all the signs
I'm
are
a
pointing
dude
at
I can
Braun being the toy
murder.
that we're gonna face next, which is why I don't believe it. I suspect that this might be a big misdirect on the part of Mob Games. I think it's theory bait. It's meant to get little theorist fishies like me interested in the hook, and then I get lured in and served up on a platter. You see, this isn't the first time that we've had Braun shoved into the spotlight only to be relegated as a mere background character when the chapter ultimately comes out. All the way back in the first trailer for Poppy Playtime, there's this wonderful shot of a giant toy Braun whose head suddenly turns around on its own and reveals its cold, dead eyes. And then the chapter came out and he was a poster. Cool, cool, cool. He reappears in chapter 2, but again, he's nothing more than just a prop in a puzzle sequence. And from a business perspective too, it just doesn't make sense for Braun to star in chapter 3. Mob Games have had such success in creating new big scary villains like Huggy and Mommy. The third chapter, just going back to a character that's existed since the beginning, it loses a lot of the hype of a big teaser reveal. And they not only lose hype, but also a good merchandising
Theory,
opportunity.
damn.
People have
Yeah.
loved Braun, Catbee, and all the other toys since chapter 1. New chapters means the opportunity
Hi,
for new
Mimi.
characters, which means more
Yeah,
new
hello.
merch. And the last thing about this is that Mob Games' strength really seems to be flexible characters. Things that bend, feel softer or rubbery. I mean, Kissy Missy trying to pull this switch in the middle of chapter 2, not only is it hilarious, but it also just shows the strength of the team's animation of softer, stuffed characters. It is a huge and welcome departure from the monster designs of a certain other indie franchise that's dominated the scene for the past 8 years. Braun is hard, he's heavy, he's robotic. Again, pushing away from the monster aesthetic that's worked so well for Poppy Playtime up to this point. So call it a hunch from the past decade of doing this, but I don't think Braun is gonna be our big bad. I think they're gonna reveal more about our big bad in October or November as they get closer to next year's release. But hey, that's just a theory. A mini theory that exists within this one larger theory, because I am nowhere
Bruh.
near done with this
Bully
teaser.
benders.
But if I am gonna keep going to
Bully
reveal the big
benders,
lore
that's
drop
all
that
I
I
have to
expect is
say.
gonna happen in chapter 3, I'm gonna need you to do one thing for me right now, and that is click the subscribe button. You guys know I know a lot about YouTube, right? Well, here's a little known fact. Quarters
We
and
don't
give the
care about
algorithm-
YouTube.
But you can't
We
click
care
the
about your
subscribe-
theory. Please.
Thank you for the sub.
We're already subbed.
We're going up against in chapter 3. Considering they all seem to die by the end of the chapter anyway, the more intriguing part is the underlying lore about Playtime Co. and the experiments that they've been running. We got a lot of hints throughout chapter 2 that the company was trying to revive dead rats using gel made from poppy flowers, and that now they were looking for quote-unquote larger subjects, aka children. We also saw paperwork where members of the staff were rating children's physical abilities in order to best pair them with the appropriate toy. Enter the setting for this newest chapter, Playcare. As the teaser says,
I announce Playcare, our very own on-site orphanage.
Imaginez pouvoir créer n'importe quoi, rien qu'en y
Dude,
pensant.
I'm fed up with those
Voici
ads.
20
having an on-site orphanage would give them
It
plenty of
starts
larger
being
subjects to
annoying.
dip into poppy gel. Kids forgotten by a system. Kids that are untraceable. But then what? What did they do here that led them to becoming the horrifying monsters that we've now come to expect from the franchise? Well, I suspect the answer to that question lies with this teaser. But not in the teaser, rather the thumbnail. You see, the thumbnail obviously puts the gas mask front and center as you'd expect, but there's a detail here that isn't present in the actual video. Surrounding everything is this red mist. It looks cool, and it definitely works nicely with the gas mask theme, but as someone who spends way too much time in thumbnail design meetings, I can tell you that this detail is more than just a "it looks cool" moment. This detail is intentional. It reveals way more than anything in the teaser itself. It reveals the usage of poppy gas. I mean, poppies are red flowers after all, so it just seems to make sense.
I do think that the poppy gas, I think that's probably where they're headed with this, right? Is making the poppy into a gas that then is converting the kids.
Immediately after I filmed this over on GT Live, I jumped on the computer and started looking into the idea of poppy gas. And you know what I found? Nothing. Zilch. Nada. Turns out nobody is interested in turning an odorless flower into a gas. But then, I remembered this moment from the opening seconds of the game.
Her hair is sturdy and won't come out when you brush it, and smells just like a poppy flower.
Her hair smells like poppy flower, but poppies aren't supposed to have a smell, right? Well, they don't unless you're talking about a specific type of poppy, opium poppies. This is actually something that I casually tossed out there in our first ever theory on poppy playtime. Side note, I looked into, and it turns out that poppies don't really have that much of a smell, unless of course you're talking about opium poppies, in which case you're opening up a whole lot of messed up there. You see, normal poppies don't have a smell and don't have much of a narcotic effect because they have low levels of alkaloids, basically just a naturally occurring compound in the plant. Opium poppies, though, have higher alkaloid levels, resulting in a stronger smell and more physiological effects on humans. What do? Well, look no further than the Wizard of Oz.
Poppies will put them to sleep.
I can't run anymore. I'm so sleepy.
You can't rest now, we're nearly there.
Opium has been used throughout history as a painkiller and sleep inducer thanks to some of the chemicals found within it, namely morphine and codeine, drugs that you might be familiar with because they're still used today as painkillers. Now, obviously, there are more and more regulations on using opiates like these for medical purposes. In fact, my partner Steph, in her former life before YouTube, worked on helping educate doctors about the medical uses and dangers of opiates and opioids. However, that sort of knowledge didn't exist in the early 1900s, and this stuff was totally unregulated. Opium would commonly be mixed with sugar and water to make syrup.
So before anyone thinks that I'm a drug dealer, which I'm not, basically what happened is that I am very clumsy, and when I was younger, I used to be more than clumsy. So I had a lot of accident before, and what happened is that there was once where I broke a bone, which is our tailbone, called the coccyx, and I was 18, and for nearly something like a year or two, probably 2 years, even 3 actually, my bone didn't heal properly, so I had to take heavy medicine to be able to walk, to be able to sleep without a problem, to be able to do my own thing, basically, because I was still a student. And what happened is that I took some medicine with some opium in it and some codeine. So, yeah. I've been drugged by my doctors. Legally speaking. There you go. Now you know. Anyways, let's go back to the video.
Syrups, balms, and soups, which would then be given to children that couldn't sleep. These balms could then be applied to women's chests to help babies wean faster, or they would be put on babies' gums to soothe them while they were teething. In fact, they were marketed as soothers and could be purchased in pretty much any grocery store at the time. You know, it was just common practice for perfectly normal kids to be given highly addictive drugs, at least until regulations finally came down in 1912. But as disturbing as that may be, it actually connects directly back to Poppy Playtime. Playtime Co. using opium poppies and Poppy's hair follows this trend of subduing kids who are in pain or just a bit restless using a drug. It also means that they were probably able to skirt around regulations. Who would suspect a toy company putting opium in a doll's hair? And considering they weren't a medical center, they probably were even less likely to fall into suspicion. But how does all of this relate back to our creepy gas mask and the red fumes surrounding the toys? A gas mask, to me, implies that the gas is covering a large area, and that the gas is more concentrated. In my research, I found this: carfentanil, a narcotic gas that's in the same category as opiates and opioids, which is 10,000 times stronger than morphine, which itself is 100 times stronger than opium. And carfentanil has been weaponized as a gas before. In Russia back in 2002, a group of rebels took a theater of 800 people hostage. Since I already seem to be doing movie references in today's episode, it's basically like this opening scene from Tenet. After 3 long days, the Russian authorities were suddenly faced with a difficult choice of how to possibly end the standoff. They decided to use a carfentanil-based gas to knock out the rebels, thereby allowing the troops to get into the building safely. Except there was one problem with the plan. Carfentanil is too strong. Again, stuff is 10,000 times stronger than morphine. Well, sure, the carfentanil did indeed knock out the insurgents so the authorities could get in. It also killed 130 of the hostages who were also in the building breathing the stuff in. The gas fills your lungs, replacing the oxygen that you should be breathing in, meaning that no oxygen is getting into your bloodstream, but instead this deadly chemical, eventually causing your body to shut down. Which then brings us all the way back around to Playtime Co. and their experiments with poppy flowers and rats. The experiment that we read about in Chapter 2 shows that Elliot and his team killed a rat and submerged it into a poppy flower gel mixture before trying to revive it. The process didn't work, which they figured was because of the size of the test subject. But what if it was more than that? What if part of the problem was that it was only coated in a poppy gel mixture? I mean, I could go swimming for hours, but I can't then claim that I'm suddenly hydrated. The water's only effective once it's inside of my body. I'm wondering if that's actually what we're seeing here. Poppy gel didn't work, but what if you breathed in poppy gas? Suddenly, you'd have it in your system immediately as the lungs transfer the gas into the bloodstream. If Playtime Co. is trying to activate the elements of the poppy, it being in the body, in the blood that's keeping people alive, well, it feels like that's gonna get you more consistent results when trying to revive someone. Making it a gas would also make the experimentation process easier. Could you imagine having to submerge one child into a gel mixture and then having to fish him out before putting the next one in? Putting a child in a room filled with gas, however, is a way easier way to do it and far less messy. And yes, at this point, I think I need to make the obvious disclaimer here. This is dark. Very dark. I think we can all very easily see the parallels to World War II gas chambers. But the reason that I'm talking about these very disturbing things and these very tragic events is because it seems like this is where the game's headed to with the upcoming third chapter. This is a toy factory after all. Mass production is their name of the game. Around the factory, we see dozens of broken and bloody cat bees, bronze, boogie bots, and candy cats. These weren't special one-offs like Mommy Longlegs or a giant Huggy. These were everyday toys that were being sold out to the masses. So, if there are lots of bloody candy cats laying around the factory, and we've seen children assigned to that specific toy, then it stands to reason that you need a lot of kids ready to be converted. The gas allows you to get a big group of children together in one room, drug them all at once, and then walk in with your colorful gas mask and remove them all ready for mass production. However, I don't think they're just shoving kids into a room to be converted. They're using the entire play care facility, and I believe that to be the case because of the main focus of the teaser, the mask. This gas mask is not just the same color as Braun, it's the same color as real-life gas masks that were created during World War II. While most masks were neutral colors like black, brown, gray, or green, those colors made the gas masks look unappealing and scary, especially to children. You can imagine why.
Are you my mummy?
Wait, why are you using Monday.com? It's not for developers.
Oh, this is Monday Deb.
In walked Walt Disney. Yep, that Walt Disney, believe it or not. He decided to help the issue out by manufacturing the Mickey Mouse mask, which had the face of the iconic mouse to make it more appealing to kids. In the UK, they also have the Mickey Mouse mask.
How is
but it
this
didn't
more
look like
appealing?
anything coming out of the old House of Mouse. Instead, these
That's
masks
scarier
were
than-
bright red, and that was it, just red. Sometimes they had a flappy nose to make them seem more fun, but overall, it was just about making the colors bright so they were less scary. And remind me again what color the mask in the teaser is? These masks are bright and colorful because they're being worn around children, all in an effort to make them and the scientists that wear them less scary, which of course they have to do so they don't get high off the fumes that are being pumped into play care. If these gas masks were only necessary while kids were being shoved into a testing room to be transferred into a toy, then they could have just had them as a standard black color. No kids would be conscious enough to see them being worn. It makes a lot more sense that they're this color though, because the children are seeing them being worn regularly, which you'd have to do if the entire play care facility was slowly being gassed. And then, all we're left with is a bunch of screaming children. Chapter 3 of Poppy Playtime promises to lean heavy into the twisted backstory of the factory. I'm just not sure any of us realized how dark they were willing to go with this story. Thanks to this new teaser, I think we have an idea. Now the question is, are we going to be brave enough to keep going? But hey, that's just a theory.
A game theory.
Thanks for watching. Here's a quick reminder that new Theoryware merch
Thanks
is
for
available
making the
right
video.
now. While we might not have ourselves Game Theory branded gas masks yet, we do have ourselves switch cases, pencil cases, and suitcases. One of those is a lie. I'll let you guess which one. And while Playtime Co. seems to be going all in on red and yellow, Game Theory's latest tech tee is green and black and blue all over. Dear viewer, I understand. You cannot feel this shirt for yourself. Feel-O-Vision is not yet a thing that's been built into the product of YouTube. They had to prioritize YouTube Shorts first. But if you could just feel this thing, you too would want to wear it every day, like apparently I have every single day I've been filming lately. And yes, that one right there is me with one sock on. No, I will not be taking any further questions. Want something warmer as we quickly approach the fall? Check out the Space Racer quilted jacket. This thing is like
That
wearing
jacket
a
is so
blanket,
cool.
but it's fashionable and cozier. And while you're at it, why not complete the look with a brand new backpack? I mean, you can
That
see what the
backpack is
chalk
so
mark
cool.
says above my head. Much wow. Need I say more? Seriously, this thing has a ton of room and so many compartments for your research papers, your toys, the memories of what you did to all those kids a decade ago. So, if you want to get your hands on any of these items before they disappear faster than an employee in an indie horror game, head on over to theoryware.com. That's theoryware.com, or just click the link in the top line of the description. And as always, remember, friends, it's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
You can choose to raid the caravan, or you can choose to guard it. This is a game where slaying monsters are not the only way to grow stronger. Heck, it's not even the main way.
Okay, Paladin.
Failed breed, created against our will, only to labor on their terms. Slaves given life by others, only to have none of our own. And now they try to make more of us. No! Get up! Go! Stop them! Feed your hunger! Slake your thirst! If we can be born on their terms, they can die on ours!
Holy shit.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, where buttons are gonna
That's
light up
crazy.
randomly on screen right now. Press them as fast as you can to play. All right? Ready? Green, red, yellow, green, blue, 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 blue. Subscribe? Huh, how'd that get in there? Wait, that's not a button on the screen. Oh, it's below the video. Well, to finish the game, you know what you gotta do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Poppy Playtime. The game that continues to
That's
throw
so
us some
silly.
curveballs. Is Poppy helping
Bet
us
it
or
would
not?
work,
Are these living
honestly.
toys made from orphans or not? Am I getting weird feelings for Mommy Longlegs, or is that just my normal mommy issues cropping up? You know, the usual questions. But today's curveball is anything but usual, as Mob Games decided to surprise us all, not with the drop of Chapter 3, but rather with the reveal of its brand new spin-off title, Project Playtime, a multiplayer survival game where you can literally play as Mom Spaghetti. Eminem would be so proud. In the game, you and your friends act as resource extraction specialists, head into Playtime Co. to collect the parts that'll allow us to build giant living toys. But things aren't as simple as just playing a bunch of rounds of Simon Says. The whole time you're solving puzzles, you'll be hunted by one of the game's monsters, Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, and the newcomer, Boxy Boo. My honest reaction? It's incredibly fun to play. The skins are awesome, the emotes are fun, the puzzles find the right level of difficulty. Overall, the team and I had a blast playing it over on GT Live.
I think I
even
do own
if
it,
there
but I
were
never
a few
played
bugs
it.
that needed to be worked out, as Tom would very quickly come to discover. Is that you?
Vous payez l'abonnement de votre box internet beaucoup.
We don't give a fuck. Leave me alone, ads. Oh my god, ad jail.
Oh yeah. Hey bud, it is you.
Literally stuck. It is me.
Look at your little army. Oh no, you can still hit me.
Oh, don't worry about him, though. Tom would make sure he had his revenge in the next round.
Uh-oh. No! I have a toy part! Tom! No! I got a toy part!
Come on, Tom!
Tom!
Come on, Tom.
I had a toy part! Boo, Tom! Everyone, let's all collect.
Boo! Everyone, boo Tom in the comments.
Boo!
Like I said, it's a really fun game. But of course, we don't care about whether something is fun or not on this channel. We are here for one thing and one thing only. The lore! And just
It
like
really
with gameplay,
does
Mob
have
Games
so
delivered
many
big
ads.
time here. When you
Yeah.
first boot up the game, you're thrown into a tutorial which is full of the stuff. Lore
But I'm not
drops
ready
left
to
and right. And then when you've played the game
purchase
enough, you'll
YouTube
also unlock
Premium.
a
I'm
lore-filled
sorry,
VHS
guys.
tape, which means it's time for us to head back into the cursed toy box, where today I'm about to prove to you that the scariest, most threatening figure pulling the strings in this game may actually have been the hero all along. That's right, folks, it's classic game theory time. The bad guy wasn't the bad guy after all. In Project Playtime's VHS tape, we're introduced to a new character named Harley Sawyer, known simply as the Doctor. Not that kind of doctor. This guy doesn't have himself a box that's bigger on the inside. Instead, he has a plan that involves being bigger on the outside.
Now we're understaffed. Safety protocols are being abandoned. Workplace incidents are common. We need to deal with all of these issues at once. I'm here now with a solution. Giant toys. We can increase our workforce and simultaneously decrease the number of lawsuits and people on our payroll if the people we have working aren't people.
Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, and Boxy Boo, these jumbo-sized living toys, they're all part of this initiative. In Chapter 2, we learned that Mommy Longlegs was used to help supervise the kids playing around in the game station, but I don't think any of us really took the implications of that seriously. These giant toys were actually made with the express purpose of working in the factory, lifting boxes, patrolling hallways, cleaning toilets. And knowing this, it actually helps the first ever VHS tape we hear in the game make a lot more sense.
So, Trespasser, just to make you aware, while we pride ourselves primarily on our high-quality toys and excellent childcare, we also pride ourselves on our security. For example, this facility is full of hidden motion triggers, which, once set off, will turn on the factory's emergency alarms and directly contact the authorities. And
teenagers are building businesses with AI.
And teenagers are building businesses.
Let's be real. Most people over 40
I
use
hate
ChatGPT like
this.
it's Google. Copy.
Leave me
that's one of the
alone.
more tame aspects of our security system. No spoilers.
He's talking about Huggy. Huggy is literally the factory security. Step aside, Fritz Smith. There's a new night guard in town, and he is tall and blue and fuzzy. For the first time in the series, we have confirmation as to why these toys actually came into being. So the next question is when. As we
Jesus,
start to
how
piece together a
many
timeline of
ads?
events for the factory,
No,
you
for
hopefully
real.
know when this initiative started. Well, Project Playtime actually gives us a lot of
I hate
information on
this.
that. Boxy Boo's description tells us that he was based on a toy from 1966. Huggy Wuggy's description is similar, telling us that the giant monster was based on a toy created back in 1984. But Mommy Longlegs' description actually works a bit differently. You see, it makes it clear that in her case, the toy didn't come first. Instead, the giant mommy that we saw throughout Chapter 2 was created in 1991 in an effort to use the company's new elastic plastic. And eventually she became, quote, so popular that Playtime Co. created a toy out of her and took it to market. That tells us that the Bigger Bodies initiative had to have started prior to her creation in or before 1991. And considering that she's experiment 1222 and that Huggy was 1170, it had to have been significantly earlier than that, probably around 1990. And that's not all the timeline information that we get here. For more, we turn our attention to the Project Playtime ARG. That's right, Mob Games heard my cries for more interesting clues. I really wanted to do a theory just on these cardboard cutouts, expecting there to be some sort of hidden lore inside the glitchy audio. The perfect place to hide some lore, Mob Games. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And so they decided to raise me an entire ARG. The ARG itself is actually super interesting and really complex. Unfortunately, most of it was teasing the new character for this game, Boxy Boo, and by the time we managed to solve it, the teaser was already out, and the game wasn't that far off either. Plus, the ARG's now been wiped from the internet, so it doesn't really make sense for us to cover it anymore. But if you do want to see the ins and outs of it, which are really
It's been less than 5 minutes. I'm gonna stop with the ads. Please.
I highly recommend watching Sheep Rampage's
I'm not getting
video
YouTube
series on it.
Premium.
They were covering all the puzzles and solutions as they were happening in real time, so definitely worth a watch. It's a long series, but it's a good series, so boom, just solved your afternoon of entertainment. Today, though, we're just going to be focusing on the details that matter for us moving forward. During the ARG, we heard from a new character named Rowan Stoll, an employee that was initially concerned about Huggy Wuggy being used to watch children.
Hello, Mr. Pierre. I know you don't want to hear any more about this. I get it. Sounds like a bad joke, Huggy Wuggy staring at children. If some creep is hiding nanny cams in our mascot's eyeballs, then it's something that needs to be taken seriously.
The next video we see of him, though, he's changed his tune.
I just want to apologize. I was wrong. Nothing weird is going on here at all.
Clearly, he figured out that something more sinister was going on, and that the living Huggy security system was a feature, not a bug. In that video, he tries to throw everyone off the scent that he knows anything.
I'm not looking into it anymore. And I mean, not that there was anything to look into in the first place.
Smooth, Rowan. Very smooth. Clearly, Playtime's aware that he knows too much and wants to silence him. But Rowan hatches a plan.
I think I'm gonna die. I had to pretend I'd seen nothing so the company would leave me alone. I've scheduled the company's the servers, the security to be shut down for 60 minutes of maintenance. While security's out, I'm gonna release everything and run. I think they're gonna kill me first.
And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. Rowan goes down into the basement and stands face to face with Boxy Boo, who does what toys do best, eats him alive. Notice the dates on all of his videos though, 1991. So for Rowan to have seen a giant Huggy watching children and then get eaten by a giant Boxy Boo, it means the Bigger Bodies program was up and operational by March 30th, 1991. We can also add to the timeline when Project Playtime itself takes place. In Project Playtime, one of the toys that we're tasked with assembling is a large-scale Boogie Bot, based on the game's NFTs. We know that the toy Boogie Bot was made in 1993, meaning the company had to still be functional as a toy factory at least until then. Considering that this was their last major toy made though, we can assume that the place shut down shortly thereafter. We hear this event happening in Chapter 1 when the toys begin their rampage.
Today's events are no doubt in relation to him.
Most likely then, Project Playtime takes place sometime in the decade prior to Chapter 1, the time after everyone went missing, but before we return to the toy factory to explore its mysteries. Playtime Co. needed specialists to go into the factory on their behalf to allow them to continue the Bigger Bodies initiative, despite the monsters that are now roaming the hallways freely. But what's interesting is that up until now, we've assumed that these monsters are being driven purely by their hunger, but Project Playtime reveals that that's not the case.
They are trying to build more toys, more like you. It has to be stopped.
This mysterious voice is talking to Huggy, and presumably the other giant toys throughout the factory, getting them to work together in order to feed themselves, but also to stop those who are trying to make the Bigger Bodies initiative a success. Whoever this mysterious voice is, they do not want more monsters to be created. But who could it possibly be? Fortunately, I didn't have long to wait for an answer because during my playthrough on GT Live, I got a loading screen that told me exactly who it was.
I got a loading screen.
Which one did you get?
I got Mommy Longlegs being puppeteered by 1006.
That's the one. Yeah, mine is Huggy just chasing people, so you definitely got the interesting one. You got the lore there.
I got the lore, see? Experiment 1006 has been one of the franchise's biggest mysteries. Each installment reveals a little bit more about him. The first chapter showed us that he was a prototype to all these toy experiments, that he had a digestive tract but didn't require food to survive. The second chapter revealed him to be incredibly intelligent, tampering with cameras and alarm clocks in order to sabotage the scientists doing experiments on him. He even showed up at the end of Chapter 2 to drag a lifeless Mommy Longlegs away. But his end goal, his motivation, has largely been a mystery. Thanks to this tutorial though, we now know what he wants. He's trying to stop the experiments. He's trying to stop people being used to make these toys. That's why he helped to release all the giant toys before the events of Project Playtime.
Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him. His absence was a flaw in the scientific process.
The giant toys are organized. They're working together. And it's because this one creation is able to psychically talk to them all. Again, this gives more clarity to something that we heard back in Chapter 1.
Coordination and cooperation is evidently within his skill set.
And while he doesn't want more toys to be made, he is taking care of all the monsters that already exist.
The others are hungry. The others are starving. Get up.
He's keeping them fed, he's keeping them alive, and most importantly, he's keeping them safe. These people didn't ask to be turned into toys. This isn't what they wanted. And while 1006 can't fix them, he can keep them alive. He has good intentions. Even though he's got himself a scary voice and a creepy metal claw hand, I think he's the good guy. He might actually be the hero of this story. And his heroism isn't just limited to protecting the monsters. We know based on documents from Chapter 2 that he's also actively trying to save kids. One thing everyone put together fairly quickly after Chapter 2's release was the fact that Playtime Co. seemed to be testing children in order to put them into the perfect toy. Specifically, we see two documents outlining the performance of Michaela Hyssop as the researchers tried to pair this girl with Candy Cats. But one of the things that all of us overlooked was how these
World Anvil is great for any genre, but it's perfect for sci-fi and fantasy, speculative fiction, and historical.
I'm sorry, guys.
Performance assessments ended. Neither document is finished. Both of them trail off as the pen scribbles off the page. What's more, there's blood on the paper. It suggests that not just once, but twice, researchers were killed while testing Michaela. And Michaela actually sees it coming. At the end of both the documents, while undergoing the statues game, we read that Michaela is distracted by something else. Presumably, this is the giant monster that's coming to kill the researchers. This tells us then an important detail. The prototype is saving the these kids as many times as it takes. Whether it was Mommy Longlegs coming in to kill the researchers or the prototype himself, we know that the prototype's behind it because he's the one puppeteering all the big monsters, and he has repeatedly stepped in to save the kids. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a good guy to me. And he's not only using the other monsters to save the kids, he's also using us. Remember that line I just showed you from the monster tutorial?
Others are hungry, the others are starving. Get up.
Those last two words, don't they seem familiar? Yep, the death messages from both chapters almost always end with those exact words, get up, which then results in us respawning. Up until now, we've been under the impression that two people have been speaking to us through these death screens. The lowercase words that are far more motivating, like we're almost there or it's not over, being from Poppy, trying to get us to find her at the end of every chapter. And the second, uppercase words like innovation is key, thank you science, or he's loose, this is an emergency lockdown, being from either Elliot Ludwig or a scientist that was working on the project. But now, I don't think that's the case. Yes, there are two tones of messages, but almost all of them end with the exact same two words, get up. I think this is experiment 1006 trying to communicate with us. More lives are at risk than just yours. He's trying to get us to help the trapped souls inside the factory, the ones that he himself has spent so long protecting. Why is it speaking to us in two different voices? Simple reason could be that some of his lines are just him repeating back all the things he heard when he was first created. The prototype has saved us, isn't he wonderful? But there's actually another explanation. Think back to the end of chapter 2.
What have you done? You make me part of him!
Mommy screams for her life, terrified of being a part of 1006, who drags her lifeless corpse away shortly thereafter. Broken toys end up being combined into the prototype, so maybe it's a way for him to keep the toys and the spirits inside of those toys alive. That would mean that 1006 now has multiple voices inside of him. The voices of all those toys that have perished and are now incorporated into his being, all of them trying to communicate with us at once. This, I suspect, is what we're also seeing in the new VHS tape of Project Playtime. It starts off as normal text, but then switches to capital letters. Again, two very different tones present here. Near the end, we see the line, the bigger bodies initiative will fail, which not only lines up with the motivations for 1006 that we've just discussed, but it also matches the exact words on the game's Steam page, except over there, it's written in a glitchy text. Now, while glitchy text doesn't necessarily prove that it's 1006, we have seen those death screens in the past use codes and corrupted text before. And a robotic monster trying to communicate in every way possible, ending up with text that appears glitchy, fits pretty nicely. Plus, there are also some frame-perfect messages in there that appear in the static of the VHS. One that says, save us, and another that says, a pawn and a sacrifice. Again, hidden messages, other voices, all trying to break through. But while I'm certainly excited to see what the prototype pulls out for us in future updates and what his role in the story is going to be going forward, there's still one major question here. Who is 1006? All the giant toys that we've met thus far have been made from people. Mommy Longlegs even got a name, Marie Payne. So if 1006 is the prototype, the one experiment that paved the way for all the others, then surely he too has to be made from someone. In our previous theories, we came to the conclusion that orphans were being used to create these monsters. They were tested in the game station, and if they were considered fit for purpose, they would get on the train and be sent to play care, where they'd be experimented on and eventually turned into toys. So was experiment 1006 just an orphan? A random child that's now after revenge? A vengeful spirit, if you will? As much as I'd love to dunk on Poppy for riffing on another piece of FNAF lore, I don't actually think that's the case here. 1006 is incredibly intelligent, able to take control of the other toys, manipulate and trick the scientists in the toy factory, while later experiments like Huggy were described as obedient. These later experiments were made from children who could be trained and molded into what they needed to be, but the prototype was different. He was an adult, one we've gotten to know a lot about in recent chapters. I propose that 1006 is none other than the founder of the company, Elliot Ludwig. Now, I'm not the first theorist to suggest this. Ever since the release of Chapter 2, it's actually been a fairly common theory. However, I really feel like now we have the evidence to hammer this one home. We know that Elliot Ludwig suffered a tragic loss in his family in the 1960s, presumably his daughter, who would then go on to be remade in Poppy. And throughout the game thus far, Elliot is always described as a family man at heart, and he's always giving credit for his business to the children. Now, call me cynical, and maybe I've played just one too many indie horror games at this point, but I see stuff like that and I immediately think, oh, this guy's shady. He's clearly killing the kids. But nothing he ever says or does is outright evil or mean to children in any way. Instead, it's trying to benefit children. Throughout the toy factory, we see posters pushing employees to adopt and foster orphan children.
You can choose to raid the caravan, or you can choose to guard it. This is a game where slaying
children. And while again, my knee-jerk reaction is this guy is clearly using these orphan kids to make living toys, I don't think it started that way. If it did, he wouldn't be outright encouraging employees to adopt and foster children like we see in the posters. That would be taking test subjects, potential living toys, away from the factory. No, I believe that Elliot did indeed have the best interests of the kids at heart. It was this new character, the Doctor, who took things in a dark direction, and he was able to do it because Elliot was out of the picture. During the ARG leading up to Project Playtime, clue hunters found this memorandum from Rowan Stoll reminding employees about the need to keep quiet about confidential information. But in it, we get this line, quote, "Nobody cares about your safety and security more than us. And as our great founder Elliot Ludwig always said, Playtime Co. is my family, and family looks after one another." Notice the tense that the letter uses. It's past tense. He is out of the picture by the time the whole Bigger Bodies initiative gets into full swing. So where did he go? In Chapter 2, there's a note on Elliot's desk about using poppy gel to bring dead rats back to life. That note is labeled Experiment 814, almost 200 experiments prior to the prototype. Why would such an old note be sitting on his desk? We know at least another 400 experiments took place after this one. Surely memos about those later experiments would be at the top of the pile, but no, we find this old note. A note that, at the very end, mentions using larger subjects for the test. I think Elliot realized what was being proposed here and tried to shut the entire operation down. However, Harley, the doctor, was determined.
My name is Harley Sawyer. I'm called the Doctor. When I look at this company we've built, I do not feel proud. Declining profits, failed experiments.
He specifically calls out failed experiments. When Harley takes control, the experiments haven't been successful yet, just like we see with the rats and the poppy flowers. And so when Elliot stood in his way, there was only one thing to do. Use him as your guinea pig. That's why that was the last note on Elliot's desk. He never returned to the office. Harley could just lock the door and no one would be any wiser. And so Elliot became the first. He became the prototype. Now it was up to him to protect all those that he failed to protect as a human. Both the employees that are being turned into monsters and the children who are in the process of being tested. And he's doing everything he can to stop it. Killing researchers that are testing kids, preventing more toys from being built in Project Playtime, and sending us a note to bring us back to the toy factory to investigate, and then continuing to encourage us to get up when we fail. But clearly his mission is incomplete, and Poppy appears to be the final solution. There's a reason that Mommy captured her again in Chapter 2. Remember, she's following 1006's orders. I suspect that he needs to be reunited with his daughter in some way for his mission to be complete. Not exactly sure yet. Maybe it's just a creepy toy family reunion. But whatever it is, I bet we're gonna find out more in Chapter 3. You know, provided the new game Project Playtime doesn't make so much money that Mob Games suddenly pulls a Fortnite and stops pursuing the single-player campaign. That would never happen, right? In the meantime, friends, remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And if you're still looking to get your Poppy fix like the orphans at Playtime Co., you can always watch our prediction video for Chapter 3. You do not want to know what they're gonna do with that gas mask. That video is on the left. Or, if you like people getting turned into monsters, you can always check out our video on Bendy and the Dark Revival. Let's just say our leading lady Audrey may not be who you think she is. That video is over on the right. As always, my friends, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current industry-leading AI app builder, and you wouldn't believe the kind of apps that people are creating.
He couldn't have gotten far. What was that? Stay alert. There. Stay calm. Don't worry. I'm not here to hurt you. How about a Diet Coke? You want one? Yeah?
Holy shit.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that
Okay,
only
give me a
gives
second,
you
I
one
need to grab a
instruction.
drink.
Have fun.
Smash the subscribe button.
Huh, mysterious red text that isn't the same as the...
I'll be right back. I just need to get water and hydrate. My hair. There we go. Ow, 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 ow. got some snack. And I'm gonna bring back the water. Give me a second. Or something to drink at least. Okay, I'm here. I have everything. It's fucking annoying to walk like this. Oh, Jesus. Okay. We're here.
Rest? Totally not suspicious. Today, with the FNAF timeline finally behind me, we are overdue to cover something completely different. A game where we explore an abandoned children's entertainment venue filled with oversized characters that were at one point friendly, but then turned evil on account of being possessed by the souls of dead children. See? Completely different. Yes, my friends, we're hopping back onto the Poppy Playtime train because while I've been busy over in my own personal animatronic hellscape, Mob Entertainment has been dropping all sorts of new content. The spin-off title Project Playtime, a complex multi-month-long ARG, and my other favorite form of content, analog horror YouTube videos. Because you can't spell analog horror without the lore. Oh, I suppose you can. There's no E in analog horror. Well, guess what? It's a silent E anyway. Call it the phonetic spelling of lore. So far, Mob has released two quote-unquote lost VHS tapes to their YouTube channel. One from 1992 and the second from 1995. Look, the titles have the dates in there and everything. Even a .mp4 at the end for that truly authentic lost footage feel. Despite the fact that the MP4 as a file format didn't exist until 2001. But who am I to judge? Anachronistic file formats aside, these things aren't just filled with a bunch of mindless spooks building hype for the eventual release of Chapter 3, they're also filled with clues to the lore. And I think, thanks to one of these, I've been able to solve the identity of a fan favorite character. Everyone's beloved jumbo pink plushie, Kissy Missy. Who's hidden inside our floppy little friend? I think I have the answer for you. So grab your tranquilizer darts and flashlights, theorists. There's a theory on the loose. The first VHS released onto the channel was called Restricted Disappearance 06/18/1992.mp4. In this video, we see Huggy escape the facility and run out into the woods with a large group of Playtime employees in pursuit. 5 end up dead and 6 remain missing. Seems like Huggy can't be stopped. But then the video ends with an ominous scene of the giant Huggy peacefully standing next to a normal residential house. He's captured and brought back to the facility. In terms of lore, this video does a lot with very little. On the surface, this tape feels very straightforward. Huggy escapes the facility, scares ensue, and then he's brought back. But this short, basic narrative actually goes a long way to confirm many suspicions that we've had about the characters and the events of this franchise. First, this video reinforces the timeline of the Bigger Bodies initiative, Playtime Co.'s push to create giant toys that help around the factory. We know via unlockable cards that are found in Project Playtime that Mommy Longlegs started as a Bigger Body creation before they wound up making toys of her in 1991. So this VHS taking place in 1992 fits into that rather nicely. The project is in full swing at this point, and the trapped toys are starting to get restless. It also confirms something that we've suspected for a while now, that some of these giant toys were created using orphans in some way. That's why we see Huggy standing outside of a house at the end of the tape. He was just trying to go back home, the home that he was either adopted into or his foster home. His childlike instincts taking him back to the last place that he felt safe. It's this incredibly sad, somber moment that does a lot to showcase the tragedy of this game's story. And that's not all. This Huggy seems to be acting differently to the one that we met in Chapter 1. Huggy escapes the facility, but there's no mention of violence towards the staff. Huggy only seems to become violent to the employees after they shoot at him. This tells me that Huggy, and presumably some of the other experiments like him, aren't naturally violent. It also reinforces what we see in Project Playtime's tutorial. Huggy is largely complacent until the prototype urges Huggy to kill.
They are trying to build more toys, more like you. Kill everyone in sight.
It really seems like the bigger bodies monsters are the collateral damage in this war between Playtime Co. employees and the prototype, Experiment 1006. They're the innocents that wind up being caught in the middle. This is something that we can start to see more clearly in the next tape, Restricted Relocation 0808-1995.mp4. In this newest VHS tape, we see Kissy Missy being transported towards Playcare in August of 1995. The tape repeatedly tells us not to view the footage. I can't possibly see that plan going wrong in any way. Again, just shows the absolute negligence.
Remember how, so this toy is supposed to be called Kiss and Missy, right? And remember how we see a version of Kiss and Missy called Stella in the chapter 2? Like, as like a cupboard or something? What if it's the Stella employee? What if she the Stella employee? Guys. I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense, but what if?
This company. So of course, we keep watching, and in true Playtime Co. fashion, things start to go wrong. We travel down the rails with Kissy strapped to the train. As we ride, we pass by graffiti on the wall that reads, "The hour of joy is at hand." In between camera shots, we see text flash on screen meant to be instructions for employees, but then each message winds up getting overridden by capitalized red text that says basically to do the opposite. It tells them to release the straps that bind Kissy Missy, which, as you'd expect, means that the employees wind up dead at the side of the tracks. It's another simple, straightforward tape that does an incredible job of hiding tons of lore clues in plain sight. Let's just start with the date, shall we? Poppy's already done a great job of mapping out a very clear timeline for us, unlike some other franchises. At this point, we know when each toy was made, starting with Poppy in 1950 and ending with BoogieBot in 1993. And because Mommy Longlegs was a big body before her toy released in 1991, we also know that the giant toys were in development sometime before that. At this point, the only key date that we're really missing is the day that the toys went rogue, destroying the facility and either kidnapping or killing members of the staff, as we hear in the background of this Chapter 1 VHS tape.
That's why I'm making this log, so that the same mistake won't be made twice.
But now, thanks to a combination of this relocation tape as well as the developer interview, I think we can tell when it happened. Recently, the developers went onto Discord to answer a bunch of questions that the community had, and one was about the date in which the Playtime Co. factory shut down. Well, I'm sure we all would have loved to have a definitive answer from them. Where's the fun in that? They had to make us work for it. What they did clarify, though, was that the factory did not shut down in the 2000s. This then narrows our window to a 7-year period between 1993 and 1999, which, let's say, is a lot more precise than we've had up to this point. But I actually think we can do it one better. Take a listen to the audio that we hear in the background of the Restricted Relocation tape. Hear those screams in the background? Do they sound familiar?
Whether those who are beneath us understand it or not.
Those screams, the screams of employees being mauled to death by giant toys, those are the screams that we can hear in the distance. The event that shut the factory down happened on this date, August 8th, 1995. This is the day of the Great Toy Rampage, and it's all on account of him. Experiment 1006, the prototype.
Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him.
He's the one orchestrating this attack on the employees. Not only is he speaking telekinetically to all the toys in the facility, urging them to kill, but he's also the one manipulating these VHS tapes, altering the text to all caps or using the color red to communicate with us, getting not just the monsters to rebel, but the humans watching the tapes to listen to his commands. Suddenly, that graffiti that we see in the tunnel, "The hour of joy is at hand," makes a lot more sense. It feels like something that Experiment 1006 would say, or more specifically, the person that became 1006, Elliot Ludwig. His whole goal was to bring joy to children, and after being betrayed and turned into a monster by Leith Pierre and the Doctor, it makes sense that he would use the same terminology, almost ironically. These toys were made from children to be workhorses. Now, he will finally be able to free them and give them the joy that he had promised them since the beginning. Except
Well,
there was
not
one
really,
thing that didn't quite go according to
since
plan. Kissy Missy didn't kill
they're
the trained
transformed
staff
into
like she was
monsters and he
supposed
asked
to. Now, I know y'all
them
probably think that I've
to
lost
kill
it. Clearly those Playtime employees around her
the
feet are dead. Just look at the blood on Kissy, around her feet, around her hands, around her mouth. This is an open and shut case, right? But to that I say, look again.
What do you think these are?
Is that not blood splat? I mean, could be scratches.
1006 is the only creature that we currently know about in this entire facility that has claws capable of creating marks in the wood like that. He has to have been here during this moment, shredding up the employees once he realized that Kissy wasn't going to be doing it herself. What's more, Kissy Missy is laying on top of the scratches. It means that she was standing aside while the prototype slashed and slaughtered everyone around her, and then resumed her position on the train when he was done, like a good, obedient toy. Truly the best girl. You can even see what appears to be bones or intestines on the floor by her feet, something that would have been eaten if this was any other giant toy. But Kissy refused. She left them there. This wasn't an act of hunger like with Huggy killing people. This was 1006 acting out of revenge. Revenge for turning him into a monster, for torturing the kids that he swore to protect, and for locking away the only thing he ultimately cared about, his daughter, Poppy. But I think we can actually keep going here. I think we can actually prove the identity of Kissy Missy. We're rarely given names of actual humans in this franchise, but when we are given a name, they tend to be repeated a lot throughout the chapters to show that they're going to be important to the ongoing narrative. That said, there are still a couple names right now that haven't led to anything substantial. For instance, during chapter 2, we can actually find this note.
Entire batch of toys is miscolored due to Patty Hall sabotaging the painting machine. Saboteur has since been dealt with.
Patty Hall. This was a new character that we'd never heard about before and was never mentioned again. That struck me as odd. Even one-off characters like Avery, the disgruntled worker from a VHS found in chapter 1, gets himself a second VHS in chapter 2 to flesh him out a bit. But Patty, yeah, she was just there. A random name on a random rejected toy form. Or at least that's the way it was until the ARG launched. In case you missed this one, the ARG involved us following the story of a new character, Rowan Stoll, an employee who was slowly figuring out that something wasn't quite right at playtime. And as a part of that ARG, he released a bunch of internal documents via an FTP server that we could access. And one of those documents on there was this, a disciplinary document for a familiar face, Patty Hall. Quote, details of occurrence, sabotage of retail shipment. This week of 1/2/91, employee intentionally sabotaged factory equipment. In particular, a paint machine. The employee mismatched 57 paint canisters, resulting in an extraordinary amount of toys no longer being suitable for retail. Retail shipment number 018345
How are you today?
was
Hello.
recalled, resulting in a significant amount of lost revenue as well as damaging Playtime Co.'s brand image among several major retailers. There is substantial evidence supporting the assumption that this
give me a second,
sabotage
I'm
was
gonna
done
close
in
the
some
door.
sort of defiance to several of Playtime Co.'s practices. Plan for disciplinary action, effective immediately. Employee is demoted from toy designer and will be sent downstairs to Storage B to receive further instructions. All of this took place on January 2nd, 1991, signed by none other than our good friend and leader of the Bigger Bodies Initiative, the Doctor. The next time we're down in Storage B, there are no employees working there. It is literally a storage room for toys that are being experimented on. Notice the blood that covers this smaller Mommy Longlegs doll in the background. The only living thing that we see in Storage B, Kissy Missy. Could it be that Kissy Missy and Patty Hall are actually one and the same? I know that might feel like a bit of a stretch, but think about what we're seeing here. It's 1991, so the Bigger Bodies Initiative is in full swing.
Maybe
we have
it
a
is
character in
Patty.
Patty who's openly defiant to those in authority, a chaotic neutral, just like we see with Kissy defying the prototype's rampage. And we have ourselves a character associated with creating alternate colored versions of other toys, just like how Kissy is an alternate colored Huggy. Plus, the biggest clue of all, the fact that we've only seen Storage B mentioned with regards to these two characters screams a connection. Lastly, it would explain why Kissy Missy is friendly towards us in Chapter 2. Sure, she's against Playtime Co. She has been from the start. She was sabotaging their toys, but I also don't think that she's on the side of 1006. She witnessed the monster kill her fellow employees in cold blood on the train. My gut is that she just wants this whole place to burn. And so when she sees us, a person trapped inside the facility just trying to get out, she sees an opportunity. We are the only ones that can stop not only 1006, but also destroy Playtime Co. from the inside, have those still alive brought to justice, and have the fond legacy of Playtime Co. tarnished and forgotten forever. That is why she helped us. And given the instructional video shows her heading towards the Playcare, I wouldn't be surprised if we bump into her again in Chapter 3, helping us to take on whatever new threat awaits us. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And if you want to keep this Poppy train a-rolling, here's a link to our most recent Poppy theory over on the left, where we break down the secrets in the game's first season to dive deeper into the origins of 1006. Or, you know, if you're sick of listening to us talk about dead kids, you could always watch our video on Tom Nook's criminal undertakings. I promise you, there is more to him than meets the eye. That video is over on the right. As always, my friends, don't...
Let's watch
My work
the
is
other
easy
one.
because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get.
We don't give a fuck about the end. Thank you. It'll be nice.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's full of hot air.
They're
Sometimes,
here
folks,
being like,
Mob Games has
try
come out of its
premium light
hibernation and
without
finally given us what we've
without
all been
engagement.
clamoring for over a year now. The long-awaited
Yeah, no, thank you.
Chapter 3's second trailer. Wait, are you kidding me? Come on, don't get me wrong, I love brightening images frame by frame as much as the next guy.
Are we about to brighten something?
Oh, are we ever gonna brighten something?
But it's been, what, 15 months since Chapter 2? I feel like I need to get my Poppy fix to complete my indie horror Thanos glove of 2023. That said, if this trailer is anything to go by, the newest chapter is gonna be incredible. Immediately things feel different here, and it's clear they're leaning hard on the horror.
This very clearly reads of like, hey, this is so starkly different from anything else in this franchise.
Right.
Very clearly reads as, hey, we sold a movie.
One of the developers was even asked about this in the official Poppy Playtime Discord server, and he said, quote, "It'll still have the same feel as the first two in a lot of respects, but the horror is definitely dialed up." Which, of course, got everyone real excited. And from the creepy images of dead kids to the literal writing on the wall, this trailer is like a toy box exploding with clues about what this new chapter's about. And I think that I've figured it all out months before its release. Not only will we have tortured kids and sinister poppy gas, but we're now being shown more about the monsters they became and the creepy religion they've created. A religion full of sacrifices, rituals, and a leader who's manipulating his congregation into serving him. So strap on your grab packs and hold your breath, loyal theorists. We're heading deep into the cloudy red fog of Playcare. The repeated theme for this chapter is the use of red gas, so let's start there. In a past theory, I suspected that this gas was made from poppies, a red flower that we know Playtime used in their experiments trying to bring dead rats back to life. It's also in the name of the game, so, you know, not that big of a logical leap. I also pointed out that poppies have been used throughout history as a sleep agent, mainly due to the natural opium that's contained in the plant. And that is exactly what we see in the trailer. On the walls of the Playcare, we find a drawing that shows clouds of red gas with the phrase "time for bed" written underneath. This is the last thing that the child sees before falling asleep under the influence of the gas. Which then leads us to the question, who's our new monster responsible for delivering it? We see some crude child drawings on the wall of a purple creature with red clouds around him, and text all associated with either sleep or nightmares. This then seems to be our gas monster. Sometimes the purple figure is shaped like a bird, other times it's got super long limbs, and sometimes it's just a purple scribble. This has gotten many people on the internet to think that he's a shapeshifter. I disagree. I suspect that this is just the result of sleepy kids not having a clear vision of what this thing actually is as they pass
I think
out.
I know who it
Fortunately for us,
is.
though, we get to see a bit more of this creature. By pausing the trailer on one of the final frames, brightening the image, and then color balancing it a bit, we see that it's got itself a purple paw with 4 sharp claws. That, coupled with the shape of the nose and eye sockets that we see during the final jump scare, as well as the presence of a muzzle right here, reads to me like an old cartoon cat, almost like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. Now, that at first might seem weird. This franchise already has itself 2 other cats in the form of Cat Bee and Candy Cat, so why are they triple dipping? Can't they come up with something new? I suspect that it's because a cat that lures kids to their final sleep is actually a common superstitious belief. One phrase that you sometimes hear tossed around is that cats will steal a baby's breath. For centuries, there have been these urban legends circulated about cats sneaking into cradles at night, causing children to suffocate and die. It's unclear where that whole urban legend started, probably the story of just one parent where it happened to them, but it's thought that the smell of the milk on baby's breath, or the crib being a nice warm place to cuddle, or the cat being jealous, some combination of those things get them to climb into bed, lay across the baby, and deprive them of oxygen. There was even a coroner back in 1791 that came to examine a deceased child and actually stated this urban legend was indeed the cause of death, which only gave more support to the superstition. And that, I suspect, is what our Chapter 3 cat monster is doing. After a fun day at the game station under the watchful eye of Mommy Longlegs, this guy would come in to quote-unquote help the the children fall asleep, stealing the breath of children by replacing their air with his poppy sleeping gas. Considering that we've been seeing more and more images of gas masks, this is also something that we're likely going to have to use to protect ourselves. Otherwise, we might begin to hallucinate and have to distinguish between what's real and what isn't, just like the kids' drawings on the wall would suggest. So what is this gas cat? Or, I suppose if you're following the conventions of the naming system for this game, it would be Gassy Catty. Not the most sinister of names, but what is Gassy Catty up to now? Well, the writing is quite literally on the wall in this trailer. It's been busy carving phrases like, I live to serve our angel of salvation, I rejoice in him, wrapped us in garlands on the walls. Garlands, by the way, are wreaths of flowers that are often used for Catholic baptisms, so you might start to see where all this is going.
So are these stage lights?
They look like candles to me.
Are they? Oh yeah,
I think they're
like ritual candles. Again, a lot of religious imagery here.
Gassy Catty is no longer taking on the role of a monster, but instead that of a religious leader. This idea is also exemplified by another carving that we see on the wall, my somniferous flock. This isn't referring to a group of birds, it's being used in the Christian sense. One of the many roles that Jesus is associated with in Christianity is that of a shepherd, one who tends to, feeds, and cares for his flock. The sheep in this scenario are his followers, people that rely on and follow Jesus in their day-to-day lives. Meanwhile, the word somniferous stands out for a few reasons, mainly because I've never heard anyone ever use that word in a sentence before. Turns out that in the years since this factory closed, Gassy's been studying up for his SATs. Always be learning there, Gassy Catty, because let me tell you, I am right there with you. I too am a nerd for words.
Somniferous would be what, my sleepy?
Yeah.
Because somnia is sleep.
Turns out I was actually half right in my assessment there. According to Google, it's not just being sleepy, but having sleep induced upon you. So our Gassy Catty is talking about his flock of sleepy kids, the orphans in the play care that he's putting to sleep. But the play care has been abandoned for years. There aren't kids there anymore that can serve as his sleepy flock, right? Wrong. The whole point of the play care and the poppy gas was to help convert them into toys. But rather than them all being giant toys like Huggy Wuggy, I suspect a lot of these kids turned out much smaller. When the team and I were playing through Project Playtime's newest update, we noticed this poster.
What does this say? Take every
step.
Take every step like it's your last.
Oh, and they're heading to Playcare.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of random characters, so these are kids, not like toys.
A poster with 3 new plush toys walking towards the play care. Now at the time I just thought that these toys were there to represent the children walking to the play care, trying to make things seem wholesome and child-friendly, but now I don't think that these were representations at all. I've already mentioned the sad-looking images of the children on the walls of the play care, but did you notice the remains of characters next to their faces on the edges of the frame? These are the same characters, the dog and the unicorn. There's also a new character there that wasn't on the poster, a green bunny, and if you look at a later drawing from one of the children in the trailer, we see a plush with floppy green ears and the words, my new friend. This kid became his friendly green bunny, and I suspect that the other children all had similar fates, becoming the very mascots of Playcare. This is the sleepy flock that Gassy is talking about, a group of converted children that are lost and scared and see him as their only savior. But then, who is this angel of salvation that Gassy Catty's talking about here? Well, the last 2 wall scratchings give us that answer pretty explicitly. The original saved me, I rejoice in him, and never forget the hour of joy. In our last theory, we suspected the hour of joy was the moment that the toys revolted and reclaimed the factory. In one of the analog horror tapes released on the Mob Games YouTube channel, we see the hour of joy is at hand written on one of the walls right before we hear screams of the factory workers. Screams that match the ones we hear on the scientist's VHS tape from chapter 1.
Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him. His absence was a flaw in the scientific process.
It's the prototype, 1006, the one we believe was created from the man who wanted to bring joy to children, Elliot Ludwig. He was the first successful toy from the Bigger Bodies initiative. He was the original that led to the creation of all the others, and we actually get our very first look at him in these trailers. This massive robotic amalgamation made from various other toy parts. You got things like a huggy head near the top, and there, right there, there's Mommy's top half.
I don't think it's one of you darn! You'll make me part of him!
This is what the prototype's working on. This is what Mommy meant by make me a part of him. And my suspicion is that this is what Gassy and his somniferous flock are helping to build. Any cult needs themselves a goal, something that helps the leader to become more powerful. And gathering parts of dead toys, maybe even killing other toys themselves in order to build a monstrous body, yeah, that one seems to fit the bill. And if any of them die along the way, well, then they're just martyrs for the cause. In the opening shot of Huggy's headless body, there's actually a dog plushie similar to the dog that we've seen in the posters, also missing a head. If you die or fall victim in your mission, you don't die in vain, you get the privilege of becoming part of the Savior. But did you notice something missing in this 1006 amalgamation? His spindly arm and long thin fingers that we see from the end of chapter 2. That critical missing piece in this silhouette makes me think that this isn't his body. Or at least I don't think it's his body yet. Notice how still the silhouette is. Well, that could certainly be there for dramatic effect. I actually think it's because this body is a work in progress. The candles around the play care give off a ritualistic vibe, and that, combined with the missing iconic arm, makes me think that maybe 1006, Gassy, and his flock are gathering these materials to build him the perfect body, and that they still need to put his soul into that body. And so chapter 3 is going to be about us stopping it, stopping the somniferous flock from finishing the job, so that maybe finally we can be a hero in this game. Maybe. But I don't think so. You see, thus far, we've been nothing but the villain. It's been well established at this point that we used to work here. And not only did we work here, we were instrumental in the creation of some of these toys.
You wonder who we are. But why? You should know. It was your doing that made us... Oh, we said that!
They left Mommy to die alone. Mommy didn't deserve that, but you worked here. So if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
And now, look at what we've done since coming back to the factory. We've killed both Huggy Wuggy and Mommy Longlegs, two toys that were made from kids. It's not a great track record for our player character, right? Currently, there's a Poppy ARG taking place in the lead up to Chapter 3, and while there isn't enough information yet to fully solve it, there are aspects that have been discovered that shine a light on the children involved in the play care scheme. One of the discoveries was this incident report about one of the orphans in play care, Marie Payne. Now, if the name Marie Payne sounds familiar, well, it's because we found a transfer request in Chapter 2 about her. In that request, we were told that she was the child that would go on to become Mommy Longlegs. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, if you remember, Mommy was fine with the orphans because she never wanted them to feel alone like she did. She was protective of the kids. No, the only people that Mommy Longlegs lashed out at were the staff, the people who tortured her and transformed her into a giant neon pink toy. She knew what they were going to be doing to these kids because it had all been done to her first. She was trying to be a protector, a comfort. We also know that she doesn't trust the prototype or any of his religious rhetoric.
What have you done? You'll make me part of you!
This is especially important if the prototype is indeed Elliot Ludwig, founder of Playtime, the man who started the whole toy conversion process in the first place. She doesn't buy his liberation of toy shtick one bit. She knows that he's once again trying to use the people around him for his own selfish gains. In fact, a group of toys building a big body using the parts of other living creatures, it's the Bigger Bodies Initiative all over again, but this time for the prototype. All of these clues together make me curious about what our motivations are for being here. Are we actually here to help, or are we just cleaning up the mess of evidence that we left behind? Are we on the side of the orphans, unwillingly turned into monsters, or are we gonna end up siding with Elliot all over again, a man who created a nightmare for so many? Early signs aren't exactly promising. We stripped Mommy of her freedom and independence only to feed her to the prototype. So what do you think is gonna happen next with these kids from play care? Seems like there's no route where we don't walk away with some blood on our hands. Though, some tells me that's something our player character is more than familiar with. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying theories about brightly colored mascots, I highly recommend you check out our coverage of Welcome Home. If you like Poppy, you are gonna... It's been 2 years since Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 released and took the internet by storm. It was everywhere. And so understandably, Chapter 2 was immediately put into production. 7 months later, there it was. Again, it was a huge success, so naturally Chapter 3's development was underway. And so we waited, and waited, and waited. 18 months have gone by, and still we're waiting. That doesn't mean Mob Games has left us completely empty-handed. They've been giving us little tidbits of lore in all kinds of strange places. But with all these little breadcrumbs of lore being dropped over such a long period, it can be hard to keep track of what we do and don't officially know. That is, until today. Today I'm giving you in one complete video the definitive Poppy Playtime timeline. The Poppy Playtime line. Poppy Playtime line. Poppy Playtime line. It feels like it doesn't work, but it works, technically. Just saying. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that'll stretch far and wide to find the lore. And while I'm busy doing that, why don't you give a big ol' huggy-wuggy to that subscribe button? We're always doing videos like this to keep you guys up to date, and clearly, it's necessary. I mean, Mob Games has gone a bit insane with the lore drops for this one. It's not quite FNAF levels of let's release 20+ books with a single line of lore hidden in each one, but still, it's a lot to have to keep track of. Outside of the 2 main chapter releases, we've had a spin-off title with 3 phases and 2 VHS tapes, 3 found footage YouTube videos, 2 ARGs with dozens of tiny scraps of lore, and a partridge in a pear tree. They even hid lore in their anniversary videos. Like, who does that? Who does that? But while their methods might seem unorthodox, it does mean that there's a lot of lore and a lot of dates getting thrown around that are pretty difficult to keep track of, especially when all the story they've been seeding out happens decades before the actual games themselves. So today, we're gonna be wiping the slate clean and starting over. We're gonna be putting all the evidence together, all the theories we've had to create one cohesive timeline, so when Chapter 3 does release next month, we know exactly where we stand and what to expect. Strap on those grab packs, friends. It's time to lower ourselves into the depths of this haunted toy empire's history. The story begins not with any of the games, but rather with Playtime Co.'s website. On this now deleted webpage, we learn about the company's founder, Elliot Ludwig. He founded Playtime Co. in 1930 as a way to, quote, bring joy to children. He gave everything to his company, but sadly that work ethic would just wind up pushing his wife into divorce. Regardless, Elliot continued onward, determined to bring Playtime Co. to new heights, and according to the controversial NFT collection, in 1950 the company created the toy that would put them on the map. In the most incredible doll video on YouTube announcing the game, we find our titular toy, Poppy Playtime. Elliot had outdone himself. Poppy wasn't just a lifeless doll, she could talk to you, she could even respond to questions, making her an instant hit with children everywhere. She was also an instant hit with the parents, because her hair smelled just like her namesake of poppies. Flower that doesn't actually have much of a scent, but does contain opium, which was used throughout history and children's medication to relieve pain and help sleep. So you had this new toy that every child wanted, and then parents would suddenly find that their kids were much calmer and sleepier. These toys started to fly off the shelves, and the company became a household name. That said, not all poppies were created equally. All the regular Poppy dolls were incredible feats of engineering, but one was at a different level. Her conversational skills were like having a conversation with an actual person.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you.
But that wasn't a coincidence, because she was an actual person. Hidden in the game files is an unused ending monologue for Chapter 2, where Poppy reveals a lot more about her backstory, specifically this line right here.
Terrible things have happened, and I am the cause. Being able to exist as a doll, it has killed so many people.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone. But getting in the zone and staying there, that
Yeah, that's difficult when you have ads in front of your face.
And when you combine that with the maintenance VHS where we saw blood dripping off her voice box and those weirdly human-looking eyes of hers, it reveals that this Poppy was in fact a real person. Emphasis.
Oh no, please.
Something happened to her, and I think we have a pretty good idea of what. It all comes back around to Elliot in the next decade of the timeline, the 1960s.
In the 1960s, an unfortunate family death had pushed Ludwig down to his lowest.
This family loss started it all, and I believe that this was the person who became Poppy, the first of what would be many others. But Elliot didn't have any family that we know of. His wife divorced him 3 decades ago, and any children that he'd have had with her would be in their 30s at this point. That's why the prevailing theory is that Elliot had a young adopted daughter. He wanted to bring joy to children, to the point that he would encourage his employees to also adopt, even going so far as to build an orphanage on factory grounds.
That is why it is with enormous pleasure that I announce Playcare, our very own on-site orphanage.
Adoption and loving children was clearly on his mind, so the idea of him adopting a young orphan feels like a natural first step. And given that she was the only family that he had, her dying would be even more devastating to him, so he didn't let her die. Elliot took his dying daughter and preserved her inside a Poppy Playtime doll. In the most recent ARG, we've started receiving documents that discuss using organic parts, which would explain why Poppy's eyes look so real and why she has blood covering her voice box. Those were her real eyes. That was her real blood, used in a last-ditch effort to save the daughter. And shockingly, it worked. Poppy came to life. His beloved daughter returned to him. He locked her away in a room of the factory that was designed to remind them of their family home, far away from everyone else, preserved in a glass box, where he could visit her and keep her safe from anything else that might happen. Over the next couple of decades, the company hires more staff, like Leith Pierre as the head of innovation. They also release all sorts of popular toys like Braum the Dinosaur, Boxy Boo, Candy Cat, and of course, the company's next massive hit, the Blue Boy himself, Huggy Wuggy, followed quickly by Kissy Missy, because every Ken needs a Barbie.
Barbie has a great day every day. But Ken only has a great day if Barbie looks at him.
Despite that popularity, the company struggles to remain afloat.
When I look at this company we've built, I do not feel proud. Declining profits, failed experiments, people are constantly seeing things they shouldn't. How is that anything less than complete failure on our part? It's pathetic.
Those, dear theorists, are the words of Harley Sawyer.
I'm called the Doctor.
And he isn't just bringing up problems, he's also the man with the solution.
I'm here now with a solution. The Bigger Bodies Initiative. Giant toys. We can increase our workforce and simultaneously decrease the number of lawsuits and people on our payroll if the people we have working aren't people.
And the idea is all thanks to the one living toy that told us she started it all, Poppy. This leads us to the early 90s when the Doctor's plan is in full swing. It's here where we join him trying to recreate the magic that is Poppy, studying her in her little safe glass case and trying desperately to figure out how Elliot's daughter was able to continue living inside the doll. There are hundreds of experiments, one of which we see a report of on Elliot's desk in Chapter 2, Experiment 814. Based on the handwriting of this and several other notes, this appears to be a report written by the Doctor himself. And by this point, it's pretty darn clear what element of Poppy he's focused on. Quote, the experiment utilized a live rat. Rat was fed 3 portions daily for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, the rat was killed and submerged into a poppy flower preservative gel mixture. 1 week later, an electric shock was applied to the rat in an attempt to revive it. The rat remained unresponsive. The Doctor suspects that poppy flowers and living parts are the 2 key factors to creating more living toys, but his experiments still wind up in failure. That said, the Doctor seems to have an idea as to why. Quote again, I still believe in the potential of the poppy flower. Perhaps something larger than a rat would yield different results. And in Chapter 2, Mommy Longlegs reveals exactly what he meant by that.
It was always so sad to see the kids go. They called me Mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one. But they come for games and never come back.
What's the difference between Experiment 814 and Poppy? Poppy wasn't a rat. She was a human, a child, an orphan. Orphans have no parents, which means if they go missing, there's no missing persons report, no investigations, because who would miss them? It was the perfect crime and the perfect answer to the Doctor's experiment. To facilitate this, the company creates Playcare, Playtime's own on-site orphanage, as well as the Game Station, a facility designed to test and improve the skills of the orphan children. In Chapter 2, we see reports that show us the improvement of one specific child's skills, and in those reports, we see that they've been assigned a toy that they'll soon become. It's at this...
Guys, I'm very sorry to cut in the middle of the video, right? But, I think the medicine is taking effect and I'm start feeling sleepy. So I'm gonna take a break, go take a nap, and we'll come back. We'll come back later for more of the video, if that's okay with you, because I don't think I'll be able to stay up. I'm very sorry. So here are my socials if you want to check to see when I'm awake. And here is the Discord if you want to join us, because it's super fun in there. Alright, thank you for watching. I'll see you later for more game theory and for the actual keyboard typing, because I really need to do that paper thing. Alright, I'll see you later. Love you guys. Have a great day, and yeah, see you in a bit. Bye bye. Thanks for watching.